Hello and welcome back. So we're continuing to work on the LJ Peretti pipe, and the next step is going to be to work on getting the stem cleaned up. And I told you some of the interesting things about this stem. It's a very rough stem, and we're clearly going to have to deal with some of these molding marks. There's also a fair amount of tooth chatter here. That it's not too bad, but hopefully I can get that to focus in a bit. It's not too bad. But it will need to be sanded out, and there is this dent in the button that I'm a bit worried about because I don't have to. Well, obviously you can't add vulcanite. You can add some other materials, but I'd like to not do that if I can avoid it. So I'm going to try to use a little bit of heat to lift that out. But the first thing I want to do is clean this, and you've already seen that process. I'm just going to use some bristly pipe cleaners and some soft pipe cleaners and some alcohol, and just keep scrubbing out the airway until it's until the pipe cleaners come out clean. And I will do that, and then I'll bring you back for the next step. Well, the plot thickens, as they say. I cleaned the stem. It took me only these 3 pipe cleaners to get the airway clean. This was the first pipe cleaner that I used. It's a bristled one, and you can see it did pick up some residue from the stem. The second one, also bristled, came out practically clean, and I used both ends of these, and then I passed a soft one through, and you know, there's basically nothing on this. It was a remarkably clean stem. I can't imagine that this was smoked more than once to have this level of. I mean, this is what pipe cleaners, after I smoke a pipe and clean it every time, pipe cleaners look worse than this. So I'm baffled by this. It's almost as if someone cleaned the stem before selling the pipe. But given the condition of that bowl, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. At any rate, we won't look a gift horse in the mouth, and we'll just call the airway clean. I also used a bit of gauze and some alcohol to clean up the tenon. And the next step now is going to be to work on the stem. And the first thing I want to do, well, I'm going to sand it. And you saw me sand previously. I promise I'm not going to sand in front of you. But I wanted to let you know that the last time we did this, we started with 1200 grit sandpaper, which is fine if the stem's in good shape. But I need to be a bit more aggressive with this because it is so rough, and because I do want to get rid of these ridges. So I'm going to start with a 400 grit, which is fairly aggressive, and then work my way up. I'll go to 600, and then 1200, and then move on to the micro mesh pads. So this is going to take a bit more time, but it'll be worth it. I mean, we really want to restore the stem, and well, actually we're going to make it better than restored, because I don't think this was ever properly finished to begin with. Before we do that, I'd like to try to deal with this dent in the button, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to do that, but sometimes a little bit of heat will actually lift out the dents, because the plastic has a memory. It's been compressed by someone biting there, so if we just heat it up and allow it to be a bit flexible, it will tend to move back out to its original position. So we're going to try that. I'm not making any promises, but we'll see how it goes. And if it fails miserably, I'll edit that out. So what I'm going to use is an alcohol lamp, and this is an alcohol lamp. This is going to be burning denatured alcohol. So this is not Everclear. It's not 95%. It's actually 100%. So 200 proof alcohol. There's no water in it, so it will burn very clean and very efficiently. Because of that, there's also very little carbon released. I mean, the wick does burn a bit, but for the most part, you're just getting a pure ethanol flame, and it's not going to leave any soot on this. It's also a fairly gentle flame, and it will not get too hot. So if I was to use something like a torch, or a propane lighter, butane lighter, sorry, that would certainly melt and scorch the stem, but this is a gentle flame. So I'm going to light this over here. And I'll bring it back in, trying really hard not to catch the camera on fire. And there you can see the flame. This is, again, it's a very gentle, soft flame. And I will now try to just warm this up. Just want to make sure I've got the right part there. Just bringing it in. I'm not quite putting it into the flame. I don't know what the camera's picking up here, so I'm watching it very carefully, not looking at the camera at all, so as to not accidentally catch it on fire. So that's not done very much. Flame caught a bit there. I do think that lifted though. Yes, that actually worked. So if we can get the focus in here. So it's better. It's not perfect, but it has lifted up a bit. Gotten rid of some of that dent. So we'll try a bit more. The trick is to not get too ambitious. You know, you just want to warm it. You don't want to put it into the flame. So this is something that where it's much better to take your time. And I'm going to go in for some of those chatter marks as well while I'm doing this. I mean, they will probably sand out, but might as well preserve as much of the vulcanite as we can. Yeah, I'm actually quite pleased with that. Just a little bit more if we can. Okay, well, you get the idea. I may continue doing this off camera just to try to raise that a little bit more. And then the next step will be to begin sanding through the grits and polishing with the micromesh pads, as you saw in the LL Bean pipe videos. And then I will bring you back and show you what the finished product looks like. Alright, well, that took a fair amount of time, but I am very pleased with the results. Went through all of the grits, and we've got this nice mirror-like finish. The edges where those molding marks were are now nice and smooth. The chatter is pretty much eliminated. The button remains nice and crisp, and that dent that was in the button is pretty much gone. There is still slightly noticeable, if I can find it. If you know you're looking for it, it's well, let's just say it's slightly noticeable. So I'm really pleased with this, and of course this is going to be buffed on a buffing wheel at the end. Since we're refinishing the pipe, we'll buff everything and wax everything. So this is in great shape, and I'm really happy with the stem. It just remains to see what happens with the stummel. So that's going to continue to soak. I've turned it a few times in the alcohol, and I'm going to leave it in there probably for a few more hours, and then I'll take it out and begin to clean it. May let it go until morning. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this and learned something. Please feel free to comment. I'd love to hear what you think of the channel or this current pipe, or if you have any suggestions, or if you just want to say hello. I'd love to hear from you. If you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and do so, because then you can keep up on this project and other projects as they come along. And I will look forward to seeing you in the next video, when we should be getting the stummel cleaned up and refinished. We'll do some staining on that, and hopefully get it onto the buffing wheel. So take care, and I'll see you soon.